I love a good utility device, and today we're checking out this pedal snake system from Dugyte Systems here in Australia. I'm going to be using it with the Fractal FM9 in a 4-cable method setup, but they have sent out their 6-cable method system on here. So if you want to run multiple amps with effects loops and relay switching and have a super tidy, compact, quick and professional setup, these are well worth looking at. Let's take a look at what comes in the box and then we'll rig it up and make some noise. Now, for anyone wondering about the name Dugyte, in Western Australia, in particular the Perth area, we have local snakes that are jet black. They're quite long, they're generally pretty shy, and they generally like to leave people alone, but they're called a Dugyte, and having a pedal snake with this very slick black finish on here is kind of fitting. So there's two ends to this. Down here, this is going to mount on our pedal board, and you can see on here there is this plate which is adjustable, so you can kind of fit that on the rail, say on a pedal train style board or something like that. Then you've got your primary set of connections on here, so you're going to use patch cables from your pedal board or your modeling unit to the slots on here. So there's an effects loop section. There is a set of relays on here, both a balance and a mono setup on there if you want to do amp channel switching on your amp. And then you can send the signal out to not 1, but 2 amps over here. Then on the other side, there's kind of the brain of the unit. We've got all our connections down here and the main box over here that has a power connection on here. I love these connectors, super sturdy and stable, an on-off switch, and then all your cables. So the idea with this is you plug all these cables into your amp setup, you mount this box with your amp and next to the power supply over there, then the snake takes it to your pedal board. The beauty of the setup is that this stays on your pedal board, it stays patched in. There is a plug on here for a power cable that stays connected to your pedal power source or your modeler. Again, the same type of connection, so that stays in there. This goes into your power supply or your modeler, and then when you finish playing, rather than having to tear down a whole bunch of cables, all you're going to do is disconnect this socket. This is all super slick and solid, feels very chunky and professional. Let's put together a rig using the Fractal FM9 in 4-cable method with one of my amps that has an effects loop. I love that all I'm going to have to do is connect the snake over here or disconnect it when I'm done playing, and all of this can remain intact. So I want to go from the FM9 to the front of my amp, and I'm going to use output 3 on the FM9 for that because that can provide me with unity gains. So I'm going to use a short patch over here. We'll take that and we can plug it into the amp left jack over here. Now the FM9 has 2 outputs and this has 2 inputs, so I could drive 2 amps if I wanted to. Next, we want to take the send from the amp and connect that, in this case, to input 3 over here. So here's our send, which is labeled effects in. I'm going to put a patch cable on there, and that's going to come over here to input 3. And then finally, we need to go to the effects return, which is this jack over here. I'm going to use output 1 on my FM9 over here to do that. So let's plug that one in. And then we've actually done all our necessary wiring over here. When I connect the snake up to here, it's going to provide power, and it's going to be able to send all the relevant audio back to my amp. Of course, all I have to do is then plug in a guitar into input 1 on the FM9. Next up, we're going to use the other end of the snake to hook up the amp. But before I do that, I will just test that the power is working. And look at that, like magic. I can take this away. And as you can see, I've got the snake connected on here. It's providing power. It's going to be sending audio back to my amps. I love that there's just one connection for audio and for power. And then this can live with the amp and where I've got all the other power supplies. So this is going to be super clean and isolated on the stage. Easy to tear down, easy to set up. Let's set up the amp now. Everything on here is basically idiot-proof and labeled. So I'm going to take the amp 1 jack here, plug it into the input of my amp. Then we should turn the amp around and connect the effects loop. Again, these are labeled send and return, and they're going to go into the relevant jacks, which are on the far right over here. With all of that set up, we can finally hear it. I'm playing a Fender Meteora Ultra 2. I'm mostly going to be on the bridge humbucker. That's going into the FM9. I've got a drive, a phaser, and a pitch block set to the octave divider mode before the amp. I've got a delay and a reverb in the loop. I'm using the mono tape and then the large plate reverb pretty much at the stock settings. I'll put a screenshot of the signal flow in FM9 edit right here, and we can have a listen to it. again, the massive advantage with this, once you're done, just connect that main socket and you can take the board and put it back in its case and transport it. Next time you want to set up, all you've got to do is plug the big socket in there. So this feels super sturdy, super slick and professional. Dugyte actually make a couple of different systems and they are able to make custom systems to whatever your needs are. So I'll put a link in the video description. A massive thank you to Jerry for sending this out to me. I got to meet him when I was over in Queensland and we talked about the system and what would be right for me. So I massively appreciate it. It's also kind of nice seeing an Australian company do really high quality products like this and seeing a Perth boy do well. If you'd like to learn more, like I said, check the video description. If you like what I'm doing here on the channel, there's various ways to support me directly. Otherwise, go and grab your guitars and make some noises, and I'll see you next time.